I caught my wife with another guy in our bed, I kicked him out and also got him fired from his job. Wow, this is quite a story. So, I'm 44 and my wife is 39. We've been married for 11 years and don't have kids. A couple of years back, I got some blood work done and found out I was at risk for diabetes, gout, and high blood pressure. That really freaked me out, so we both decided to get healthier. I dropped from 117 kilograms to 85 kilograms, and my wife, let's call her Lilia, went from 83 kilograms to 65 kilograms. We felt amazing, and thankfully, I avoided those health issues. We hit the gym almost every day in the afternoons, where this guy, let's call him Egghead, worked as a trainer. As Lilia started to slim down, I noticed a lot of guys checking her out, and I felt proud. She's got a great figure, especially her legs. Egghead was no exception, I could see him checking out the women, and he loved to flaunt his muscles. One day, while we were on the ellipticals, Egghead took off his shirt and started showing off on the cable machine. I looked at Lilia, thinking, can you believe this guy? But she was totally focused on him, even licking her lips. I swear Egghead was smirking. It hit me hard. I was working on my fitness, but I didn't have his build. On the way home, I mentioned Egghead's antics, and Lilia was like, really? I didn't notice. I pointed out that she was staring, and she brushed it off, saying she must have been lost in thought. After that, I noticed they were chatting more at the gym. A few weeks later, Lilia was at the gym doing squats on the Smith machine when Egghead decided to step in and help her out. I mean, how nice of him, right? He had his hands on her waist, and I felt a surge of anger. After she wrapped up her first set, I walked over and said, not in the friendliest tone, I got this. Egghead just smiled and replied, no prob, buddy, because he calls everyone buddy, and then he walked away. Lilia, knowing me well, picked up on my irritation and exclaimed, my god, op. I told her we'd talk about it later at home. When we got home, things escalated. She accused me of being immature and jealous. I pointed out that Egghead seemed to be making a move on her, and while she admitted she was aware of it, she insisted she would never cheat. I asked why she let him touch her, and she said she didn't want to come off as rude. After an hour of back and forth, we decided to switch gyms. But even after that, Lilia held a grudge against me for months, claiming I didn't trust her. Fast forward to 3 months after the gym switch, I got a great job opportunity that required me to work afternoons. We talked it over, and I took the job, which meant we had to hit the gym at different times, me in the morning and her in the afternoon. That's when things really started to go downhill. Lilia's resentment grew, and our communication dwindled. I'd text her about my day, share memes, and tell her I missed her, but she'd respond with short replies like yes, okay, same here, hahaha. I was really worried and suggested couples therapy, but she flipped it back on me, saying I was the one with trust issues. I agreed, feeling desperate to mend our relationship, even thinking it was all my fault. So, in 2022, I went to therapy, but Lilia's attitude didn't shift. We weren't intimate anymore, and she never seemed interested. I even snooped through her phone but found nothing suspicious. I checked her car for a hidden phone, nothing there either. I looked at her phone's location history, and it was just the same routine. House, work, house, gym, house. Every time I tried to chat with her, she just mentioned that she thinks she's going through a 40s phase. She believes it'll blow over. I never had any proof of cheating, so I just kept working and stressing out. We live in a condo, and the security guard, a really friendly guy named Mr. P, always greets me. We chat a lot. He was rubbing his shoulder and mentioned that he had to move a heavy sofa yesterday, which left him in pain today. I felt bad for him, and then he dropped a surprising comment. Maybe you should set up a meeting with your massage therapist, he said. I was confused and asked, who? He replied, the guy who came yesterday to massage Mrs. Lilia. It took me a moment to wrap my head around that. I asked him, do you have a video of him? I think he saw how shocked I was and quickly offered to show me. Guess who it was? Egghead, of course. He's been over a few times to massage my wife. I took the day off to dig deeper. I asked a coworker for his car and later followed Lilia. She parked at the mall where the gym is, and there was Egghead waiting for her. They were all giggly and acting like a couple, sharing kisses and hugs, and I felt like I was about to cry. They strolled a few blocks into a residential area. I tried to keep up with them, phone ready to record, but the guard stopped me and asked, can I help you? I just said, what a cute couple, do you know them? He thought they were newlyweds but couldn't tell me more. I called Lilia, but she didn't pick up. I went to her car in the mall and wondered why that place didn't show up on the map. I called again and realized I could hear her phone ringing inside her car. That's why. I also discovered that Lilia hadn't been to the gym in 8 months. Little did I know that the night before was the last time I'd share a bed with Lilia. I dropped off the car and headed home, then called my parents. Luckily, my dad picked up and I spilled everything to him. I was in tears and he reassured me, suggesting I gather some proof. It's clear my marriage is done and I need to collect whatever I can while he reaches out to a friend who's a top-notch divorce lawyer. Lilia called me back after noticing my missed calls. I told her I was already home and she said, I just left the gym. My butt is killing me, I can imagine. When she arrived, she asked, what's wrong? Why were you crying? Somehow, I managed to stay calm, smiled, and said I had the flu, which is why I left work early. I warned her to keep her distance since I'd be getting tested tomorrow and planned to sleep in the spare room. She was cool with it. I cried quietly and barely slept. Around midnight, I heard her laughing, probably texting Egghead, but I couldn't find any proof of her talking to another guy. Then it dawned on me why hadn't I noticed before. I bet the affair partner is pretending to be one of her female coworkers. The next morning, while Lilia was in the shower, I grabbed her phone, set up a session on my laptop, and put her phone back where it was. We can both unlock each other's phones, so it was easy. The session works as long as her phone is near my laptop or connected to the same Wi-Fi. So, I finally noticed it. The profile was under a woman's name, but the picture was just a dumbbell. I clicked in, and most of the chats were wiped clean. I figured they were using work-related phrases as a cover in case I was snooping around, like, can you drop off the papers on my desk? I know for a fact she doesn't even have a desk at her job. Another message said, heading to the meeting, where are you? And at the top it read, boss is in his office. He's clueless. Pretty smart, right? I guess I'm the boss since I know her boss is actually a woman. Then Lilia came out of the shower and said, you look worse. Why don't you just stay with your parents? I brushed off the suggestion, thinking I needed to gather more proof. After Lilia left, I reached out to my dad, who gave me the name and number of a lawyer. I called him up and laid out the whole situation. He told me the screenshots I grabbed from my laptop wouldn't hold up since they're not in AP's name, and she was clever enough to leave behind bits of conversation that seemed innocent. I could snap some pics of them at the mall, but she could easily claim they're just friends, and I can't just wander into a residential area without permission. It could land me in hot water. At work, I was totally zoned out, trying to figure out how to get solid evidence. I thought about putting in hidden cameras at my place, but Egghead hardly ever comes over, and Lilia might catch on. Unless. I'm not around. I texted Lilia, saying I was sure there was a bug and that I'd be staying at my parents' for a bit since I might need some backup. She was all for it, saying she'd miss me but would call every day. After hanging up, I called my dad and my brother. When I got back home, she had already packed a suitcase for me. It was clear she couldn't wait to see me go. I mentioned I'd grab my laptop, then noticed her messages. Boss is out, wanna come to my desk? She sent that right after I told her I was feeling sick. Perfect, she took the bait. We skipped dinner, no kisses, no hugs. I caught her glancing at her watch twice. As I was leaving, I said I'd miss her. I half expected her to slam the door, but instead, she walked me to my car. And just like that, I was off. My dad and brother were waiting outside for Egghead to show up, but he never did. After about 30 minutes, it hit me, why did she walk me to my car? Oh right. Egghead was probably already inside, maybe even in her car. It would look super suspicious if her massagist showed up at this hour. I rushed back home, slept in quietly, and heard music and moaning coming from the bedroom. There was a sofa by the door and their clothes were tossed on it. I pulled out my phone to record and opened the bedroom door. There she was, my wife, the love of my life for 11 years, on all fours with Egghead behind her. I got a perfect shot of their faces when they saw me. Lilia screamed and grabbed a blanket. Egghead, acting all tough, strutted over to me naked. I even caught him in the act. He shouted, why don't you go for a walk, buddy? I remembered a move from that Mel Gibson movie Ransom and hit his throat with an open hand. In an instant, he was on the floor, coughing and gasping. I yelled, "Get out of my house," and kicked him out. I tossed his clothes at him just as my dad, brother, and Mr. P were pulling up. I told them, "I've got this," and shut the door. Lilia was still curled up on the bed, shaking. I told her, "I've never hurt you and I won't. Get dressed, I'll be in the living room." While I waited, I sent the video to my lawyer, who replied, "I'm sorry for you, but jackpot." A few minutes later, Lilia came out, avoiding eye contact. I started recording our conversation. I asked, "Why?" But she stayed silent. Was I really that terrible of a husband? Tears streamed down her face, but she didn't respond. "Do you love him?" She shook her head but didn't say a word. Frustrated, I slammed my hand on the table and said, "Say something, Lilia. Damn it." Her eyes widened and she trembled like a scared puppy. I had never raised my voice at her before. I took a breath and spoke softly. "My lawyer will reach out to you about the divorce. You need to get a lawyer." Finally, she said, "We can fix this." I shot back, "Fix what? Our marriage ended the moment Egghead entered the picture and you chose him over me." "It was a mistake," she pleaded. "No, it was a choice. You made it and now you have to deal with the consequences." "What did you think would happen when I found out?" More silence. "Go to your sister's and tell her the truth or I'll show her the video." She went to the bedroom to pack and I followed her, watching. For the past 2 days, I had been trying to convince myself that my wife was gone. The person I shared my life with wasn't her anymore. But seeing her neatly folding her clothes and moving with that grace I loved hit me hard. I retreated to the spare room and broke down. I heard the front door close. She picked up her clothes from the sofa and made the bed where I had caught them and I just collapsed onto the floor. A while later, I gave my dad a call. He mentioned that Egghead was looking to press charges, but Mr. P told him that Egghead hadn't signed in, which made him a trespasser. The condo could sue him, so he just dropped it and left. My curious brother was eavesdropping by the door and my dad had to drag him away to the car. I was totally wiped out. I hadn't been sleeping well for the past few days, so I nearly conked out in the spare room. The next morning, my phone was blowing up with messages from Lilia, full of apologies and begging for another chance. I just blocked her. My sister-in-law called me, saying Lilia hadn't filled her in on what really happened, just that we were having a fight. Honestly, it's probably for the best that my father-in-law isn't around to see how Lilia is acting, she was the youngest and his favorite. My mother-in-law is dealing with senile dementia. All of this went down about a week ago. Next week, Lilia is getting served. Update. Hey everyone. I'm back with a juicy update that I think you'll all enjoy as much as I do. Before I dive in, I want to touch on a few things. First off, a huge thank you to everyone who reached out with advice, congratulations, or just to show they care. I've read about how supportive people can be, but this is the first time I've really felt that kind of warmth from strangers. Seriously, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Second, just a heads up that English is my second language, so I might have messed up some sentences and mixed up prepositions. My bad. Also, I mistakenly said Lilia was doing sit-ups when she was actually doing squats. Lastly, for those who think my story is made up, that's totally your opinion. I just hope my experience can help someone out there, just like others have helped me. Fourth. So, about that time I got AP. It wasn't some epic ninja move, I just gave him a solid chop to the throat. Honestly, I was lucky I acted before Egghead could. I won't lie, seeing him on the ground coughing was pretty satisfying. Fifth. A few readers stumbled upon a post I made in I.Narrate about a month before everything went down. It never got posted because I didn't really get the community rules, and honestly, it doesn't matter now. To sum it up, Lilia and I were trying to become parents for 10 years. By the 8th year, we had saved enough to try 3 times at the priciest and most successful fertility clinic in the country. All 3 attempts failed, and during the 3rd one, Lilia started her affair. That's also where I got my blood tested, and with my family's health history, they told me I had a high chance of developing diabetes, gout, hypertension, and strokes. So, thanks for that, I guess. Someone mentioned that Lilia might have aborted during the 3rd attempt because it could have been AP's baby, but that's not true. For her, conceiving naturally is nearly impossible, the embryos were created in vitro and then implanted directly. I tried to bring it up again, but she just said, "I don't want kids anymore," so I let it go. I really don't think Egghead has anything to do with her choice. This detail is important for later. Let's keep going with the update. It's been 12 days since D-Day. What have I been up to since then? D-Day +1, Friday. Had a good chat with Mr. P today. He admitted he was faking that shoulder pain just to give me a heads up about Egghead. He also mentioned that a nosy neighbor saw me kick Egghead out of my apartment, so I'm pretty sure the whole condo will know what's up in no time. My brother came over to help me change the lock on the door. After he left, I felt super lonely and ended up crying a lot. I called work to request a day off. Later that night, I talked to my lawyer, who said he's working on the divorce papers. He couldn't start until he had the proof, so it looks like it'll be a divorce by mutual consent, which is way better than the messy uncaused divorce. He also advised me not to share the video. Lilia will be served in 2 weeks. My sister-in-law called, but I told her to ask Lilia why we're splitting. D-Day +2, Saturday. My sister-in-law came over and I showed her the video. I drove her home and spotted Lilia's car on the way back. Once I got home, I still felt pretty crushed and ended up crying again. D-Day +3, Sunday. I went to visit my parents today. My mom cried with me, she really liked Lilia. My dad and I had a talk about finances and properties. When I got back home, Mr. P told me that Lilia and Egghead had dropped by. Looks like they're ready to go public with their relationship now that everything's out in the open. Oddly enough, they came at different times. Lilia showed up in the morning, parked her car, and noticed mine was missing. She tried to get into my place, but her key didn't work anymore. Then she asked Mr. P if he knew where I was, but he didn't. He handed her my lawyer's card, saying it was from me, and she took it and left. Egghead came by in the afternoon, first asking for Lilia. Mr. P told him, Mrs. Lilia, emphasis on Mrs. doesn't live here anymore, and then Egghead asked to see me. Mr. P said, Mr. Op is out. No idea when he'll be back, and Egghead left. Seems like they're not in touch yet. I wanted to check in on Lilia. Is she feeling down? Did she seem okay? Did she ask how I was doing? But then I thought about D-Day and just thanked Mr. P and said goodnight. When I got home, I ended up crying a lot again. D-Day +4, Monday. I really didn't want to, but I picked up a tip from all you amazing folks about hitting the gym hard, so I found a new gym close to work and had a solid workout. It felt pretty good. After that, I went back to work. At home, I didn't cry this time and started going through all of Lilia's pictures. D-Day +5, Tuesday. I had a meeting with my lawyer to go over my assets. Luckily, my dad made Lilia sign a prenup, so she can't touch anything I had before we got married, especially my house. Everything else will be split 50-50, and I can get compensation for her cheating. I'm planning to go for alimony too. I could fight for all my stuff, but honestly, everything just reminds me of her, and I want to move on. When I left the house, I heard some whispers, turned around, and saw 2 neighbors who quickly acted like they didn't see me. They walked right past and greeted me. I knew this would happen. After that, I hit the gym and went to work. This routine continues all week, so I'll skip the details. D-Day +6, Wednesday, not much going on today, just scrolling through Facebook since it's my only social media. I'm ignoring all the DMs telling me to reach out to Lilia. Instead, I switched to Reddit and had a great time reading about all you amazing folks who have been through similar stuff. It really lifted my spirits, so I figured I'd share my own story. D-Day +7, Thursday, I got into writing today. Posted my story before hitting the gym, and when I checked in at work, I was blown away by how many people were responding. I took some time to reply to a few comments. D-Day +8, Friday, spent the whole morning reading and replying to comments. It felt awesome to see so much support. 2 comments really stuck with me. One suggested I report the AP to my old gym, and the other said my home feels tainted and I need a fresh start. So, before heading to the gym, I started looking for real estate agents to either sell or rent my place. I just don't feel comfortable here anymore. I haven't even stepped into my bedroom since D-Day, I've been crashing in the spare room. I can't keep living like this. Day +9, Saturday, since Lilia was likely to come around and bug me, I decided to spend the day out and about. She did show up, then went to see my parents and brother. They texted me saying, Lilia came. I replied, thanks, but I'm not ready to talk about her yet. Day +10, Sunday, had a great day with my parents. We took a trip to a town a couple of hours away and had a blast. Not sure if Lilia showed up while I was gone. My dad suggested I should rent out my house instead of selling it, and I'm on board with that. When I got back home, Mr. P told me Egghead dropped by in the afternoon, looking for me. Mr. P said I was out and Egghead just left without saying anything. Day +11, Monday, so, yesterday morning, I decided to swing by my old gym. I wasn't sure if I'd run into Egghead since he usually worked in the afternoon, but considering he was busy with my wife then, I figured he might have switched his hours. Turns out, he was nowhere to be found. I asked to speak with Frank, the gym owner. While I waited, I bumped into an old janitor I used to chat with and he told me to say hi to Miss Lilia. I guess now I have to tell everyone we broke up. I just smiled at him. Finally, Frank came to see me. I asked about Egghead and he told me that Monday is actually Egghead's day off. He had asked for more hours and now works from Tuesday to Sunday in the mornings. I then explained why I was there and showed him the video. Frank listened intently until I was done, then he went quiet for a moment. He said, "You're not gonna like this." I thought, what now? Frank called over the receptionist to bring Harry, another coach and Egghead's buddy, who has a huge beard. Frank asked Harry to fill me in on Egghead's girlfriend. Get ready, this is wild. According to Harry, Egghead is totally smitten with Lilia, and Frank backed that up. He mentioned that Egghead had received a lot of complaints, especially from female members, but lately, he's been on his best behavior, no complaints and super professional. Then Harry dropped a bombshell. Egghead is trying to trap Lilia into marriage by getting her pregnant. As I processed this info, I felt something rise from my chest, up my throat, and then I just burst out laughing. I mean, it was a full-on Joker-style laugh. I even shed a tear or two. Frank and Harry looked totally baffled. I thought, oh sweet karma, thank you. Once I calmed down, still grinning like a fool, Harry asked what was up and Frank explained, this is Egghead's girlfriend's husband. Harry's face went pale and he said, oh man. This is bad, this is really messed up. Then he just walked away. We then talked about firing Egghead. Frank mentioned he needs to inform the coach association, not a real name, about the situation and he definitely has to let him go since Lilia was a member at his gym or else they could face legal issues. Regarding Egghead's coaching license, I need to draft a legal document stating that Egghead is the reason for my divorce, including the case number and the video. My lawyer will hand over the video to the coach association's lawyer and I can't share it myself. Egghead will lose his license with that association, but he could apply for a new one elsewhere, though it would take months. I asked if Egghead could appeal, and Frank said he might, but it would be pointless since the association doesn't tolerate that kind of behavior. Plus, he doesn't have the cash to hire a lawyer. That made me think about the neighborhood where he went with Lilia. I thought Egghead was doing well financially. Frank leaned in closer and asked, what neighborhood? I pulled it up on my Maps app. You followed them there? Yeah, the day before, I replied. Frank got really upset, saying, that's where my late father's house is. After his dad passed, Frank inherited the place. All the old or broken equipment goes there. He had lent Egghead a key to store some stuff occasionally, but Egghead definitely doesn't have permission to stay there. He probably has a copy of the key and might be living there without permission. Frank's going to look into it more, and it should be easy since there are tons of cameras around that area. I was just about to leave the gym when I heard someone shout, Mr. Op, hold up. It was Harry. He apologized for the situation, saying Egghead never mentioned who his girlfriend was, just that he met her at XXX Mall. I thanked him and started heading for the door, but he hurried after me, asking, can you fill me in on what happened? I replied, basically, what you heard, he was cheating with my wife and now I'm getting a divorce. I took another step and he asked, what's going to happen to Egghead? I said, that depends on Frank and the coach association. As I tried to move again, he pressed, but how are you dealing with it? This was getting weird. I looked at Harry and remembered Egghead had been to my house twice. I said, you called Egghead and he's on his way here, right? You're just stalling me. Am I wrong? He looked guilty. Please, Mr. Op, talk to him. He's really upset. He was crying yesterday. Your wife isn't answering his calls. I shot back, why should I care if he's suffering? I'll be here with you, so you won't be alone, he said. I chuckled, scared. Of that loser? He didn't tell you I kicked him out of my house naked, did he? Harry looked skeptical. Alright, let's see what he wants. I noticed there were cameras where we were talking, so I sat down at a table in the reception area. I doubt Egghead is dumb enough to try anything, but who knows? Plus, I'm really curious about what he has to say. Thank you for listening. For more stories, subscribe. I narrate the best stories from across the internet.